Hello. Okay. Hello, everyone. We're going to kick off our next session. We're running a few minutes behind, and so let's get started if folks can simmer down so we can start this. The next session is around creating frictionless data analytics experience to be necessary to onboard institutions. And we have a wonderful fireside chat with Tong Tong from Amber and Amber Group, and also an NYU professor. So I'll let this amazing fireside panel introduce themselves. All right, let's kick it off. If you guys can quiet down in the back, that will be great.
We don't have a lot of time, so I would want to get started ASAP. My name is Aisha Kiani, and I teach blockchain and DLT at NYU Tandon School of Engineering. I've been doing that for 3 years. I have a few students presenting their research, MS thesis, in the building this weekend. And aside from that, I'm also COO at Ledger Prime. We are a multi-strat hedge fund. And on the panel, I have a very dear old friend of mine, Tong Tong, the CEO of Amber Data. So why don't we start, Tong Tong? Why don't you tell us what is it that you guys do and how is it instrumental in the current environment?
Hey, everyone. Thank you for coming here and listen to this little talk. My name is Tong Tong, co-founder of Amber Data. What we do is we provide institutional-grade data and insights across blockchain networks, different spot and centralized exchange and decentralized exchange data to financial institutions. We provide the on-ramp for them to be able to understand crypto, make sense of crypto, and creating crypto products to make crypto mainstream. So, what we want to say is we're bringing the high street, Main Street to the Wall Street.
So let's talk about the current infrastructure that exists, right? Like Ethereum being the instrumental layer in all of the blockchains to exist. Why is it so important for the data to be up and running, to be accurate, for Ethereum and for the next set of chains?
I think this is actually the biggest, I would say, not a joke, but funny things. People say, oh, blockchain is so transparent. Everything's open source. The data is out there. Why do we even need a data company? But if you really dig down into what it takes, right? Think about Ethereum. Ethereum full archival node. Anybody here have an idea how large one Ethereum full archival node is? It's approaching.
Shalang knows. Shalang knows.
It's approaching 14 terabyte, right? That's one node. And if you want to have a high availability, you better run a couple. And that's just a raw, sequence time series blockchain data. Now talking about extracting it, interpreting the smart contracts, interpreting the log events, understand DeFi protocols, and indexing them, and understand account holdings, correlate to the centralized exchange, the price, the order books, and derivatives. The data, it's all out there, but it's very difficult to make sense and to aggregate, to analyze. And if you think about any traditional financial institution, they're so used to, so spoiled with tools and terminals and information that takes the past 20 years to build for them to be able to do what they do, right? Managing risk, backtesting a trading strategy, understand the fundamentals behind how to value an asset. You wouldn't buy a stock without understanding this company's earnings, right? Earning release. And so why would you do the same thing for crypto assets? So there's a lot of information there to be discovered and to be served in an institutional way, and that's where Amber Data goes, and we serve the institutions with this data.
So why does it matter, right? At Ledger Prime, we used multiple, providers to get raw data, right? Like whether it's raw data, and we were customers of Amber Data also. But then when it came to on-chain data, when it came to DeFi, it was always a struggle. And even though that, DeFi simplifies it, this is like a huge selling point of, blockchains being as transparent as they are, there's not sometimes a central point to accumulate all of that other than either scan or something. So then where do you think the landscape would move? And then given the current scrutiny and the limited environments, where do you think all of this stands?
So a lot of people say, crypto data, they just care about price, right? Like, what's this coin's price? But for me, the price of crypto is not crypto data. Like you're saying for DeFi, for all this on-chain data, it's so difficult to understand because all the protocols are still evolving. They're still developing, right? You got Uniswap V1, V2, V3, and you have different app chains getting launched almost every single week. So building this data is very critical, and for institutions to not really truly understand the interworkings of these supplies and log events and different flash loans and possible, or the mempool data, for example, and just looking at price, you will end up catching that catching that bag of whatever, and because you didn't really understand, you were just following along with everybody else were doing. And I think, through last year, we can see a lot of up and downs. A lot of these mistakes are because people didn't really understand the fundamentals. They didn't really understand the counterparty risk. You should be monitoring, you should be watching, and there's, stable coin is not that stable if you don't know the mechanism behind to make it stable, right?
So walk me through why institution in this case matter, right? Like, what is the offering? What is the crypto ecosystem at this point offering? And then, given that there are multiple players that in the space, but then there's like limited volumes these days, like the liquidity has gone down. So what is the current offering for that the data providers have to offer to, like, let's say, welcome like new players to come into the space?
So we serve a few different use cases. So in the front office, it's trading, it's backtesting, it's research, it's portfolio management. The mid office is risk management, and the back office is tax, accounting, compliance. Not so much the AML, anti-money laundering part, but more so on the side of how long did you hold this token, and for what was the price of the token when you hold them, and every step of the way as you're transacting, your tax liabilities, things like that. Why do I think institution is important in this space is because I think institution adoption gives crypto the legitimacy. Institutional adoption will help us drive the regulatory clarity because we're also sick and tired of the unclear environment that we had to operate, and it's like a thin line that we had to tread. So we welcome the clarity, and I think institution adoption into a space will help us get there. And I also feel like, my mom, right, and she wants to hold crypto and buy crypto, and I would love for her to put like 1% of her retirement into Bitcoin as well. And that's like very difficult for her to do right now. Like, memorize all these words and hold your own key. So I think institution will help us to provide the custody, provide all the on-ramp that we needed. So that's my mission. I want to be part of the force to help institution adopt crypto faster.
So if anyone has any question, like, feel free to chime in. I'm trying to keep it like to on-chain data. But back to you. Where do you think the volumes sustain for the data volumes to be? Like, I mean, for most of the markets, right? It's BTC and ETH is like still very much sufficient in its own ecosystem, and it has managed to build a full-blown DeFi ecosystem on it. And then, like last cycle, we saw a bunch of other chains coming and, redoing things that Ethereum projects were doing. Didn't really end well. But so where do you think the magnitude in the next cycle comes from?
I want to say it's DeFi. I'm a strong believer in how DeFi is enable us to innovate and breaking down the financial primitives that we all know on-chain and decentralized and without the control, right? We talk about lending, we're talking about different leveraging and flash loans and trading. So I think DeFi is really the innovations going next. And I know besides Ethereum, there's many other different chains and Avalanche as well. They're all launching institutional friendly DeFi environment where you can have KYC, AML, guardrails, and providing that safeguarding for DeFi to move around. So I'm very bullish on that, and I'm really hopeful because I feel like TriFi needs to move to DeFi eventually, and it will happen. But along the way, different tooling is needed and different regulation clarity is needed to get there.
Got it. So where, I mean, this is technically going to be my last question of the stack, but there was like a full ZK day, I think 2 days ago, here in Denver. Even my own students have been working on like ZK queries and graph queries and trying to, put that into pricing and, monitor through that. Do you think that we would use certain Ethereum standards to monitor traditional data better, or we're like far off of it?
I don't think we're there yet.
No, right?
I don't think we're there yet because I think there's still many limitations. I would say doing like enterprise processing through Ethereum, and then especially with the ZK rollups. I think I was in Bogota last year, and a lot of talks really about all the ZK rollups and ZK solution, and then there's always the AML KYC components in that institutional player, and you can't really be completely opaque because people have to know like who's transacting with whom.
Got it. Any last minute thoughts? Anything you would want to add? Anything that the audience
Any
would
question
want
from
to
the
ask?
audience?
No. Okay.
You are way too nice.
So no, I feel like everyone in the audience.
Are there certain institutions which have been kind of early adopters that you've liked kind of how they've approached their entry into the space, and they've really taken to needing to understand that data analytics?
There are quite a lot, right? For example, JP Morgan, they have Quorum. That's their enterprise version of Ethereum. And JP Morgan have the Onyx project, which has the Ripple settlements among a whole bunch of other banks. So that's one of the things they're doing. And I know a few other banks, I can't really name names because I'm under NDA with all of them, are developing non-deliverable forward, which is a type of future project, future contracts for Bitcoin. So there's definitely a lot going on, and everybody wants to get smart, and so they have a smart, educated opinion in this space. So definitely there's a lot of movements there.
And then the other thing is, like, aside from institutional, right? Like, so much of the adoption comes within the ecosystem. And, like, especially we're, like, at the Ethereum conference, so it's important that we also see on-chain metrics versus, like, institutional. So, yeah. Any last second thought
No,
or
that's
nothing?
it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tong Tong. Thank you, guys.